Hey everyone, welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're venturing into the world of Hawkins, Indiana, with a deep dive into Stranger Things. This smash hit series took the world by storm, masterfully blending 80s nostalgia with supernatural chills and unforgettable characters. But how much do you really know about the secrets behind the screen? So grab your egos, stay clear of the Hawkins lab, and let's get into 20 things you never knew about Stranger Things. In its original conception, the show was titled Montauk, and the story was set in the real town of Montauk, New York, rather than the fictional Hawkins, Indiana. The Duffer Brothers admitted that their fascination with conspiracy theories drew them to this town, the home of the Montauk Project, a series of alleged secret government experiments carried out in the late 70s and early 80s at the Montauk Air Force Base. The legends surrounding the Montauk Project provided key creative fuel. The conspiracy theory suggests that within the base, the government conducted illicit experiments on young children. Proponents of the story claimed these incidents involved time travel and experiments on people with psychic abilities, details of which were later chronicled in a book, The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time. During its early Montauk era of development, Stranger Things was originally conceived as a found footage series, reminiscent of Cloverfield or Paranormal Activity, told from the perspective of the scientists observing their sole surviving test subject. As the series evolved and got further from its original concept, the Duffer Brothers began to explore the potential of an ensemble cast beyond the confines of the laboratory. When selecting a title for the series, the Duffer Brothers were torn between Indigo, named after the show's fictional government agency, and Stranger Things. They ultimately chose the latter because it looked more visually striking. Matt Duffer explained that they wanted the title to evoke the feel of a classic Stephen King paperback, even testing how different names would appear in that style. Other titles considered included The Keep, The Nether, The Tesseract, Wormland, and Wormhole. Directing Stranger Things was always central to the Duffer Brothers' vision. Indeed, it was their main motivation for creating the series. However, they nearly abandoned the project when the one studio they saw as the perfect fit refused to let them direct. With no other offers on the table, the brothers faced a difficult choice: accept the deal and lose creative control, or walk away entirely. Confident in their vision for the show's tone and style, they had prepared an extensive lookbook, sizzle reel, and detailed season outlines to prove their capability. So ultimately, they chose to turn down the offer, believing the series wasn't worth making if they couldn't direct it, and in hindsight, it was the right call. While Stranger Things is now virtually synonymous with Netflix and stands as one of the streaming service's most significant successes, this partnership almost never materialized. The Duffer Brothers had never intended to pitch to Netflix, as they could not even secure a meeting. The situation changed when a new executive joined the company and happened to have a conversation with the Duffers' agent. The agent told them about the project Montauk and promptly arranged a pitch meeting with Matt and Ross Duffer. The rest, as they say, is history. Before it found its home at Netflix, its creators Matt and Ross Duffer faced a staggering number of rejections from what seemed like every major network. They estimated that their show had been turned down between 15 and 20 times. They explained that the primary reason networks were hesitant was that executives struggled to understand the concept of a series with child protagonists that was not, in fact, intended for a young audience. While it might sound excessive, the Duffer Brothers conducted a staggering number of auditions, seeing over 900 boys and over 300 girls for the child roles. Each young actor was asked to perform bits from the 1986 coming-of-age film Stand By Me. They had sifted through hundreds of audition tapes, many of which were dismissed after just a few seconds. However, when they reached Gaten Matarazzo's tape, everything changed. That moment they saw Gayton, who plays Dustin, they were convinced immediately and cast him based on that first tape, feeling certain that he was perfect for the role. A key turning point for Nancy in Season 1 is the disappearance of her best friend Barb at the start of Episode 3. By that point, audiences had grown to understand Barb and her friendship with Nancy, making her early death both impactful and upsetting. Originally, however, the Duffer Brothers had planned for Barb to be killed at the end of the pilot episode. They later explained that as the story developed, they realised the pacing was too fast, so they delayed her death to a later point. Had Barb died at the very start, it's unlikely that Shannon Purser would have earned her Emmy nomination. Stranger Things references several of Stephen King's works. For instance, in a subtle nod to Stephen King's story It, the final episode of Season 1 features the children attempting to defeat the Demogorgon with a slingshot, echoing the way King's characters use a slingshot to confront Pennywise, in both his clown and spider forms. The series logo mirrors the font used on the original 1980s editions of Cujo and Christine, and in one scene, a state trooper guarding the morgue can be seen reading Cujo. Phil Callahan, a police officer at the Hawkins Police Department, appears to be a nod to Father Callahan, a character from Salem's Lot and the Dark Tower series. A more subtle reference occurs when Eleven, whose nose bleeds whenever she uses her telekinetic powers, a trait shared by David Keith's telekinetic father in the 1980s cult classic Firestarter. Stranger Things also draws inspiration from a range of iconic video games and fantasy worlds. The eerie Upside Down takes clear cues from Silent Hill, particularly Silent Hill Homecoming, with its decaying otherworld atmosphere, drifting ash-like flakes, and portals tearing through walls. Eleven's blonde wig and pink dress disguise is a playful nod to Paula from Earthbound, another psychic young girl who travels through small-town America with her friends battling supernatural forces. The Duffer Brothers have also cited The Last of Us as an influence, noting striking similarities between Eleven and Ellie, both powerful, traumatized girls who forge deep surrogate father-daughter bonds with older protectors. Meanwhile, the boy is named the monster, the Demogorgon. It's borrowed from Dungeons & Dragons, a game central to their friendship and imagination, while Tolkien's influences are evident in the password Radagast. And we even got the casting of Lord of the Rings star Sean Astin as the lovable Bob Newby in Season 2. In Stranger Things, each episode is designated as a chapter. While some titles are straightforward, such as the self-explanatory The Vanishing of Will Byers, others are clever references to established horror-themed stories. For instance, Chapter 2, The Weirdo on Maple Street, appears to be a dual nod to Stephen King's short story, The House on Maple Street, as well as Rod Sterling's Twilight Zone classic, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Meanwhile, Chapter 4, The Body, directly references the Stephen King novella of the same name, which was later adapted into the film Stand By Me. The episode mirrors the novella's plot, in which four friends search for a body of a boy their own age, paralleling the group's quest to find Will. This is reinforced by specific scenes, such as the children walking along railway tracks and hiding in a local junkyard. A key part of Stranger Things' charm lies in its group of misfit kids, each grappling with their own insecurities. Dustin's cleidocranial dysplasia was written into the show after Gaten Matarazzo's casting, reflecting the actor's real-life condition. Originally, though, Dustin was simply meant to be an overweight outsider. Early pitch documents described Mike as having a facial birthmark to underscore his self-consciousness, a detail later dropped in favour of his frog face nickname from the school bully. Out of curiosity, the creators even produced a mock-up of Mike with a birthmark resembling Prince Zuko's. One of the most surprising character turnarounds in Stranger Things belongs to Nancy Wheeler's boyfriend, Steve. He begins the first season as something of a jerk and a bully, but he ultimately reforms to become a thoroughly decent chap by the end. The Duffer Brothers revealed that Steve was not originally intended to have this third act redemption. However, the actor Joe Keery was so good and charming in the role that they felt compelled to give him a proper arc. They explained that he was much more likeable and charming than they had first envisioned, noting that the original script had portrayed Steve as utterly obnoxious. They said that because Keery was so good, they began to love the idea of Steve having his own journey, suggesting he was not a bad person but was simply with the wrong crowd. Filming delays in Season 4 led to major changes in Eddie's character and his connection with Chrissy. Initially, the Duffers hadn't planned for Eddie's guitar to feature at all, but after writing the finale, they rewrote earlier episodes to establish him as a guitarist. This inspired the Tender Woods scene with Chrissy and the moment he kisses his guitar, both adding emotional weight to his now iconic finale solo. Matt Duffer noted that Chrissy's original scene was a simple drug exchange, but the rewrite turned into one of his favourites, rich with warmth and character. Ross Duffer added that the delay also helped them better understand Joseph Quinn's performance, allowing them to refine Eddie's voice and craft one of the show's most memorable moments. The pivotal cemetery scene between Billy and Max in the iconic Dear Billy episode was almost cut due to COVID-19 travel restrictions and lockdowns, which prevented Dacre Montgomery, who plays Billy, from leaving Australia. Filming was delayed until it could no longer be postponed, prompting episode director Sean Levy to devise a solution. Shoot the on-screen siblings separately over several months, using a blue screen to bring the scenes together. Communicating with Joyce through Christmas lights has arguably become one of the most iconic visual elements of the series. Originally, Joyce was intended to communicate with Will using refrigerator magnets, but the idea of using Christmas lights came from one of the writers. The mysterious realm known as the Upside Down lies at the dark heart of Stranger Things. Ross Duffer revealed that there is an extensive backstory behind it. He explained that the show's creators had compiled a detailed 30-page document about the Upside Down, outlining its meaning, the origins of its monsters, and why there are not more of them. Matt Duffer had pitched the idea of a lizard creature capable of infiltrating human minds, a concept Ross admitted he had been extremely doubtful about. Consequently, the idea was scrapped. 11 was initially conceived as a boy, and Mike's love interest was intended to be an entirely different character, the new kid at school who was also Chief Hopper's daughter. Millie Bobby Brown emerged as the breakout star for her remarkable portrayal of 11, the mysterious telekinetic girl. Cast at just 11 years old, Brown spoke only around 42 lines in the first season, yet left an unforgettable impression. Her striking appearance, including her shaven head inspired by Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road, added to her impact. There's even footage of her getting her head shaved for the role. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about Stranger Things. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.